The first time I heard the piercing whine of an ATV engine slicing through my wheat fields at dawn, I figured it was just some kid from town, maybe lost or pulling a prank. It was barely 6 a.m. in the spring of 2024, and the rolling hills of Willow Creek, Montana, were still cloaked in morning mist. But when I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand, and saw a woman in her 30s, decked out in aviator sunglasses and blaring pop music from a speaker lashed her handlebars, I knew this wasn't a one-off. She wasn't lost. She was claiming my land like it was her personal racetrack. With a cocky wave, she tore through my crop rows, flattening a quarter-acre of tender shoots before vanishing into the haze, leaving behind churned soil, broken stalks, and the sickly sweet stench of mango vape. That was the moment I realized this wouldn't end with a sign or a neighborly chat. This was headed for a reckoning, and it would come with hooves. Her name was Jessica, but I didn't know that yet. I tried the civil route first. The next day, I trekked to the closest house, a modern two-story at the edge of my property, hoping to reason with someone. A teenager answered, then hollered for his aunt. When Jessica appeared, I recognized her instantly: the sunglasses, the smirk, the ATV helmet dangling from her arm like a badge of honor. She leaned against the doorframe, barely listening as I explained how her joyrides were wrecking my crops, breaking trespassing laws, and risking fines. Her face was a mask of boredom, like I was reciting tax codes. When I asked her to stop, she laughed, told me to prove it, and then dropped the line that anyone who's dealt with her type knows by heart. "I'm tight with the town council and the neighborhood board, so you'd better watch yourself." She capped it off by calling my fields dull and pointless, and promised she'd be back tomorrow. The door slammed, and I stood there, stunned, my blood pressure spiking with every step back to my farmhouse. The next morning, the engine roared again. This time, Jessica had her dog strapped into a crate bolted to the ATV's rear, barking as she carved new ruts through my irrigation lines. For a week, it was like living in a twisted game where I was the target and she was an untouchable villain. She'd show up at random hours, weaving between my scarecrows like she was auditioning for a stunt show, crushing markers and crops. I tried snapping photos, she flipped me off. I put up no trespassing signs, she mowed them down. I even caught her live streaming her rides, laughing as she narrated her epic adventures. The sheriff's office was useless. Jessica, it turned out, was the council president's cousin, which gave her a shield thicker than my barn walls. Every attempt to stop her only fueled her defiance. Things escalated. She started bringing friends 3 ATVs one morning, tearing across my land like it was a public park. They parked under my cottonwood tree, cracked open beers, and set up camp chairs like they were tailgating. Her unleashed dogs chased my goats, and when I called animal control, they promised to make a note. I strung barbed wire. They drove over it. By week 2, I'd lost nearly 15% of my crop, and my sanity was hanging by a thread. Then came the breaking point. After a heavy rain turned my fields to sludge, I heard her engine at sunrise. Jessica was back, but her ATV was stuck in a muddy trench I'd dug for drainage. She stood atop a fence post, screaming into her phone, arms flailing. Then I saw why she was panicking. Something massive was moving through the tall grass black as coal, snorting like a freight train. It was Brutus, a retired rodeo bull I'd taken in years ago when he was deemed too wild for the circuit. He was a mountain of muscle, with a scarred hide and a stare that could freeze a coyote. Normally, he stayed in the north pasture, but a busted gate and the storm had brought him down to the fields. And there he was, eyeing Jessica like she'd just insulted his ancestors. She screamed. I sipped my coffee. Brutus didn't charge, he just stood there, calm but menacing, his breath steaming in the cool air. Jessica lost it, hurling threats of lawsuits and calling me names I won't repeat. I offered her a rope. She refused, opting instead to call her boyfriend, her lawyer, and maybe a fortune teller. Brutus, unimpressed, turned and lumbered off. But I caught it all on my trail cam. That day shifted everything. Jessica stopped her rides, not out of respect, but because she was terrified Brutus might be lurking. She retaliated by filing complaints, accusing me of sicking a killer bull on her. Animal Control came, reviewed the footage, and left chuckling, warning me not to use Brutus as a weapon. I nodded, but my mind was already spinning. Jessica would be back, I knew it. And when she returned, I wouldn't rely on chance. I'd bring Brutus into the game, trained, baited, and ready for the world to see. The quiet lasted 3 days, just long enough for me to replant a ruined row and fool myself into thinking she'd learned her lesson. But entitled people don't quit, they plot. Jessica came back, not with her ATV, but with a campaign of spite. At the local feed store, she stormed in, pointed at me, and declared I was a menace running a trained attack bull to terrorize women. The manager, a friend of 15 years, kicked her out. Then came the letters, one from the neighborhood board, accusing me of hostile livestock practices, another from Animal Control, citing her latest complaint, and a cease and desist from a law firm with a name like a cheap cologne brand. I pinned them to my fridge with a magnet shaped like a tractor, grinning. I decided to fight fire with chaos. First, I ordered a dozen creepy garden gnomes, gnarled, angry-looking things holding pitchforks and signs reading, "Trespassers will be planted." I lined them up at Jessica's usual entry point. My trail cam caught her reaction. She screamed, kicked one into pieces, tripped over another, and face-planted in the mud. She filed a complaint, claiming the gnomes were booby traps. I framed a screenshot of her fall, titled "Justice Takes a Dive." Next, I dug shallow trenches disguised with straw to jolt her ATV. She powered through, even launching airborne over one like a stunt driver. Neighbors started noticing her chaos. Too, she was tearing through their trails, spooking horses, and screaming at anyone who challenged her. I upped my game with high-res trail cams, catching her tossing trash, letting her dog dig on my garden, and even planting a cheap camera on my barn to spy on me. I turned it to film a neighbor's sprinkler and mailed another to the board with a note, "Enjoy my compost pile." Then I heard Jessica at the town diner, bragging about a final ride to show that lunatic farmer who's boss. That was it. No more games. Brutus wasn't just a bull, it was a force. I spent 3 days prepping, mapping her route, rigging a remote gate release, and setting up cameras to catch every second. The morning she returned, she wasn't alone. 2 ATVs trailed her, one with a woman in a neon tracksuit filming on a GoPro, the other with her boyfriend, a city guy in loafers and a blazer, looking like he'd wandered off a golf course. Jessica was live streaming, narrating some nonsense about reclaiming her rights. I watched from behind a haystack, Brutus at my side, his massive head low and ready. She revved her engine and charged into the field, her crew whooping behind her. I hit the remote. The gate groaned open, and Brutus stepped out, not charging, but stalking, his hooves sinking into the dirt. Jessica didn't see him until he was 40 yards away. Her smug grin vanished. She gunned her ATV, but it hit a trench and lurched, nearly throwing her. Her friends skidded to a halt, the GoPro woman bolting for the fence, slipping in the mud. The boyfriend yelled legal threats, waving his phone like a weapon. Brutus picked up speed, not a full charge, but a deliberate trot, his bulk a living warning. Jessica's wheels spoon spraying mud. She abandoned the ATV, crawling backward, hands up, screaming about the sheriff. Brutus stopped 5 feet from her, locked eyes, and let out a bellow that shook the era primal roar that sent her stumbling into her boyfriend. They fled, tripping over each other, as Brutus turned and sauntered back to me like he'd just clocked out. The cameras caught it all. Her entitled rant, the crash, the stare down, the retreat. No blood, no harm, just raw consequence. I posted the footage anonymously online, blurring names but spilling the full saga. It exploded, racking up millions of views. People dubbed Brutus the Enforcer and Jessica ATV Queen. Memes flooded the internet. Someone animated Brutus as a superhero. Jessica tried to spin it, posting a teary video claiming she was a victim, but leaked text from her boyfriend bragging about her field conquests buried her. Her social media vanished, and word spread she'd move her ATV to a storage unit 50 miles away. The neighborhood board, humiliated by the viral fallout, sent an apology and funded a sign at my field's entrance. private property. No trespassing. Trespassers will meet the bull. A local welder crafted a steel Brutus silhouette beside it, now a tourist photo spot. My fields healed, my mornings quieted, and Brutus returned to his pasture, calmer but prouder, like a warrior retired. Every dawn, we walked the fence line, him chewing grass, me sipping coffee, the Montana sunrise painting the hills gold. Peace isn't just silent sights knowing your land is yours, and sometimes it takes a bull to prove it. What do you think? Was I wrong to let Brutus take the stage, or did Jessica deserve every second of that showdown? Should landowners have to resort to livestock to protect their rights, or is there a better way? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories where justice comes with horns.